Hello, everyone. It's me, Clayton. I just finished watching the latest film from Baz Luhrmann, Elvis, starring Tom Hanks and Austin Butler. Now, Baz Luhrmann's filmography includes a lot of films with a very distinct musical style, such as his jukebox musical Moulin Rouge in 2001, and such as Bohemian Rhapsody, which was a big biopic about the band Queen. And Luhrmann certainly delivers that distinctive style to his exploration of Elvis's life and rise and fall throughout this 2.5 hour long film. But the, but it I think his style actually works best with Elvis as it fits not only his theatrical appearance, but it also fits the story in which it's trying to tell, in which it's big and bombastic, but also quite a tragedy. Let's get to the story, shall we? The story has us see Elvis's life from the perspective of Colonel Tom Parker, played by Tom Hanks in a fat suit. A very convincing fat suit that's honestly like Colin Farrell in the Batman. You can still tell Tom Hanks's charm and his genuine acting ability underneath all that makeup. Anyways, Colonel Tom takes us all the way throughout Elvis's life, and we see the highlights of his career, him meeting his wife Priscilla, his various performances, the influences that inspired his career along the way, and his eventual downfall in the 1970s. And that's kind of all there is to the story. It does skip over a few things. It happens to edit certain things out for the sake of getting it to a reasonable runtime, but for the most part, it's a story that is pretty accurate to the proceedings of Elvis's actual life. Mainly hitting the big moments of his life that are both tragic and successful, and also happening to focus quite heavily on Colonel Tom, and the quite exploitative way that he happened to have half of Elvis's profits, and how he essentially put Elvis into debt in order to keep him on his side. It's genuinely a story that feels like it's taking out a lot of Baz Luhrmann's elements that would annoy most people. I think what annoyed some people about Baz Luhrmann's style is that he tended to put a sense of cheesiness and a sense of unbelievability in a lot of his stories, even into one of his adaptations of Romeo and Juliet. But here, it feels like he just shows things for what they are, and he allows things to play out in a way that seem hyper real for the cinema's sake, but still believable for the sake of the audience. On top of that, Tom Hanks manages to be a frightening blend of sleazy while still being charismatic and likable. He has that charm that only Tom Hanks could get away with, and it really happens to work well for the film's darker moments. But of course, the film hinges on Austin Butler's performance as Elvis himself. It's called Elvis after all, so he should be the center of attention, and he certainly is for most of the film. Austin Butler looks and sounds the part and even moves a lot like the original Elvis, which shows me that both he and Baz Luhrmann certainly did their homework when it came to the King of Rock and Roll. But they also do show that he had influences from several other musicians, even some who were who were not looked upon fondly back in the 1950s. It happens to basically feel like the exact kind of film that Luhrmann would make about him, filled with big musical sequences and several fun montages, but with enough emotional moments to get you invested into Elvis and the people around him. That's why I think it's Luhrmann's best film to date, and that's why I'm going to give it an 8.5 out of 10. See you next time.